When I landed my dream job, my husband's family was furious. His mother hissed, "A good wife stays home. Quit before you embarrass us." My husband agreed, "It's what's best for the family." That night, I made a decision. The next morning, I was gone, and so was something they desperately wanted back. I was still standing in the kitchen when my mother-in-law hissed at me like I had personally insulted her. "A good wife stays home. Quit before you embarrass us." I barely had time to process that before my husband, Ryan, nodded like this was a settled fact. His arms were crossed, his tone final. "It's what's best for the family." The family. Not me. I felt something snap. That night, while they all slept peacefully, convinced I would do what they expected, what I always did, I made a decision. By the next morning, I was gone. And I didn't leave empty-handed. Let me back up. My name is Laura, and I was married to Ryan for 6 years. We lived in a mid-sized town in Texas, where his family had deep roots and a lot of money. They weren't billionaires, but they owned several local businesses and acted like royalty. Ryan's mother, Diane, was the unofficial matriarch of the family. She ruled over them with an iron grip, disguised under sweet smiles and passive-aggressive comments. His father, William, barely spoke unless it was to agree with Diane. Ryan was their golden boy, their pride and joy. And I was the wife who never quite measured up. I should have seen it coming. From the beginning, they made it clear they had expectations. A wife stays home. A wife focuses on family. A wife knows her place. For years, I played along. I worked part-time, always choosing jobs that wouldn't interfere with my duties as a wife. I cooked, I cleaned, I hosted their endless family gatherings. I kept my mouth shut when Ryan's father made comments about modern women ruining marriages or when Diane said things like, "A woman with a career has no time for her husband." I kept the peace. But I had dreams. Before I met Ryan, I had a plan for my life. I had worked hard to get my degree in business and technology, and I never wanted to be a stay-at-home wife. Not that there's anything wrong with it, it just wasn't me. Then, out of nowhere, my dream job landed in my lap. A tech company in Austin reached out with an offer, a high-paying management position. It was everything I had been working toward. For the first time in years, I felt alive. I thought Ryan would be happy for me. Instead, he acted like I told him I was running away to join the circus. "You don't need to work," he said, shaking his head. "My salary is more than enough." I tried to explain that it wasn't about money. It was about having something that was mine. But he didn't get it. Or worse, he did, and he didn't care. Later that evening, his entire family came over, and suddenly, it wasn't just Ryan against me. It was all of them. Diane sat across from me, her face calm but her voice sharp. "A wife should never put herself before her husband," she said. "I'm not," I started, but she raised a hand to cut me off. "This job would be a disgrace," she continued. "People will talk. They'll think Ryan isn't providing for you." William nodded like this made perfect sense. Ryan sat silently, arms crossed, like he had already decided for me. And that's when it hit me. It was never about the job. It was about control. They didn't want me to be independent. They wanted me to be one of them, silent, obedient, and grateful for whatever Ryan provided. Diane's voice dropped lower. "A good wife stays home. Quit before you embarrass us." I looked at Ryan. And then came the final betrayal. "It's what's best for the family," he said. Like I was being selfish for wanting something for myself. Not what was best for me. That night, Ryan kissed me on the forehead and said, "We'll talk more tomorrow." But we wouldn't. I stared at the ceiling for hours, my heart pounding. I thought about all the times I had compromised. The time I got a job offer right after college but turned it down because Ryan said, "It's not the right time for us." The time I wanted to travel, but he said, "Maybe later, when we're settled." The countless little moments where I had made myself smaller to fit into his world. And I was done. I got up quietly, my hands shaking. I wasn't just leaving, I was taking something they desperately wanted back. I walked to the filing cabinet and pulled out a folder. Inside was the deed to Ryan's grandfather's lake house. See, before we got married, Ryan's grandfather adored me. He left the house in my name when he passed, something Ryan's family never forgave me for. They spent years trying to pressure me into signing it over. They told me it wasn't really mine, that it belonged to the family. But it was mine. And now, it would be my insurance policy. By sunrise, I was gone. I packed a bag, grabbed the deed, and drove to Austin. I didn't leave a note. Let them wake up and wonder. The calls started before noon. First, Ryan. Then Diane. Then Ryan's sister, crying like someone had died. You can't do this. Ryan shouted when I finally answered. I didn't do anything, I said. I just took what was mine. You're my wife. That means it's OURS. I laughed. Funny. You didn't seem to think we were partners last night. His mother got on the phone next, her voice shaking with rage. You will bring that deed back. Today. No, I said simply. They tried threats. They tried guilt. Then came the lawyer threats, but I had already spoken to my own attorney. Legally, they had nothing. And then, Ryan did the one thing I thought he would never do. He showed up at my new apartment. I wasn't expecting it. I opened the door, and there he was, standing in the hallway, looking furious. We need to talk, he said, pushing past me before I could say no. He looked around the small apartment like it was a slap in the face. Like he couldn't believe I would choose this over him. You made your point, he said. Now come home. I stared at him. Home? Yeah, he said, exasperated. I get it. You needed to prove something. Fine. You did. Now it's time to be serious. I let out a breath. He still didn't get it. I wasn't proving anything. I was freeing myself. But I didn't tell him that. I just smiled. I haven't even started yet. Ryan sat on my couch like he still had some claim over me. Like I was just acting out, and he was here to bring me back home. His confidence was suffocating. I get it, he said, running a hand through his hair like this whole thing was just exhausting for him. You're upset. You needed to prove a point. You did. But enough's enough. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. What exactly do you think I was proving? That you can leave, he said, sighing. That you don't need me. His jaw tightened. But let's be real, Laura. You're not built for this. You don't want to live in some tiny apartment, working long hours, all alone. This is just a phase. A phase. I had heard those words before. When I got my first job in college, his mother called it a phase. When I mentioned wanting to go back for my master's, Ryan laughed and said I'd grow out of it. Every time I tried to do something for myself, they acted like I was a child playing pretend. But I wasn't playing. I walked over to the table and picked up a thick envelope. What's that? He asked, narrowing his eyes. I tossed it onto his lap. Ryan opened it, and as his eyes scanned the first few lines, the color drained from his face. It was the paperwork for the sale of the lake house. What is this? He stammered, flipping through the pages like he could change the words if he looked hard enough. It's done, I said simply. He looked up at me, his face a mix of shock and fury. You sold it? Yes. His hands clenched the papers so tight his knuckles turned white. You had no right. That made me laugh. A sharp, humorless sound. No right? You mean like how I had no right to make my own choices? Ryan shot up from the couch, his jaw tight. That house was supposed to stay in the family. That's funny, I said. Because for 6 years, your family told me I wasn't really part of it. His mouth opened. Closed. He had nothing to say to that. I took a step forward, lowering my voice. You thought I'd always stay. That I'd give up everything, just like your mother did. That I'd wake up one day and forget that I had dreams before you. Ryan swallowed hard, his face unreadable. I smiled. But I remember now. He looked down at the papers again, shaking his head. You don't get it, Laura. You just ruined everything. But he still didn't get it. I wasn't ruining things. I was finally taking back what was mine. Ryan stormed out. I thought maybe, just maybe, he would finally let it go. I was wrong. By the next morning, I woke up to dozens of missed calls. Ryan. His mother. His father. His sister, sobbing into a voicemail about how I had torn the family apart. Then the messages started coming in from their friends. Nasty, cutting words. Slut. Selfish. Ungrateful. A disgrace to marriage. Someone even posted about me on a local Facebook group, calling me a gold digger who used Ryan and then ran off with his family's inheritance. I wasn't even surprised. The whole town had been under his family's thumb for decades. I knew they'd do whatever they could to make me the villain. But I wasn't backing down. And then, the lawsuit arrived. Ryan's family actually tried to sue me. They claimed I had fraudulently obtained the lake house, that I had coerced Ryan's grandfather into leaving it to me. I nearly laughed when I read the lawsuit. They were grasping at straws. They had no case. The will was ironclad. I had lawyers backing me. But that wasn't the point. They didn't expect to win, they just wanted to drain me dry. Make me spend thousands in legal fees. Make me suffer. Ryan even had the nerve to text me. Give back the house money, and this all goes away. I stared at my phone, shaking my head. They still thought I would bend. That I would break. But they forgot something. I had spent 6 years surviving them. And now? It was my turn to fight. A few days later, I got a call from someone I never expected. Ryan's grandfather's lawyer. The same man who handled the will. I heard about what they're trying to pull, he said, his voice amused. Let me help. I frowned. Why? A pause. Then, in a lower voice, he said, because I knew Ryan's grandfather well. And I know he left you that house for a reason. He wanted you to have a way out. My breath caught. Did he say that? Not in so many words, the lawyer admitted. But he always said you were different from the rest of them. That you had a mind of your own. He didn't want you to be trapped. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. For the first time in weeks, I felt tears burn my eyes. Not from sadness. But because for the first time in years, someone saw me. With his help, we filed a countersuit for harassment and defamation. We sent legal letters to every friend of theirs who had slandered me online, warning them of defamation lawsuits. The tone shifted immediately. The Facebook posts disappeared overnight. The nasty messages stopped. And then, the final blow, Ryan's parents were forced to drop the lawsuit. Because it turns out, their businesses weren't doing as well as they pretended. The legal fees were bleeding them dry. And just like that, their war ended with a whimper. But I wasn't done yet. I still had one last card to play. And I was going to make sure they never forgot what happens when you try to break someone who has nothing left to lose. Ryan's family was bleeding money, and they knew it. The lawsuit had backfired. The lake house money was untouchable, and now, their reputation was cracking. For the first time, they weren't in control. But I wasn't done yet. Because if they thought I was just going to walk away and let them recover, they clearly hadn't been paying attention. I was going to end this for good. One night, while sorting through my old emails, I found something that stopped me cold. It was an old message from Ryan's grandfather, sent years ago, before he passed. I had forgotten all about it. But now, with everything happening, it stood out like a flashing neon sign. If anything ever happens to me, check the safe in my study. The combination is April 18th, 62. I felt my heart skip a beat. Ryan's grandfather had a safe? And he had trusted me with the code? I already knew where it was. The last time I visited the lake house, before Ryan's family tried to pretend it was theirs, I had seen it built into the wall behind an old bookshelf. At the time, I didn't think much of it. Now, I was very interested in what he had left behind. I drove to the lake house at 2 a.m. It was technically still mine, the sale wasn't fully finalized yet, so I still had the keys. But I wasn't taking chances. If Ryan's family saw me, they'd lose their minds. I parked down the road, cut through the trees, and slipped in through the back door. The house was dark, untouched since I left. I moved quickly, heading straight for the study. My hands shook as I pulled the bookshelf aside, revealing the hidden safe behind it. I punched in the numbers. April 18th, 62. A soft click. It opened. Inside were folders. Dozens of them. And when I pulled one out and opened it, I sucked in a breath. It was bank records. But not just any bank records, illegal financial transactions. And they all traced back to Ryan's father. Ryan's family had always bragged about their successful businesses. But these documents told a very different story. There were fake invoices, hidden offshore accounts, shell companies used to launder money. It was fraud. Massive fraud. If this got out, his father wouldn't just lose money, he'd go to prison. And now, I had it all. The entire empire they had built wasn't just crumbling, it was rotting from the inside. And I was about to set it on fire. I made copies of everything. Then, I sent a single email. To an investigative journalist. No explanation. No warning. Just the documents. And I waited. 2 weeks later, the story exploded. The headline, prominent local businessman under federal investigation for financial crimes. Ryan's father was finished. His businesses shut down overnight. Their house foreclosed. The same people who once worshipped them now turned their backs. And Ryan? For the first time in his entire life, he wasn't the golden boy anymore. I knew he would come back. And sure enough, a week after the story broke, he showed up at my apartment again. But this time, he looked different. Not angry. Not smug. Just lost. You did this, he said quietly. I didn't answer. I just watched him. He let out a breath, running a hand through his now disheveled hair. You destroyed my family. I tilted my head. No, Ryan. Your family destroyed themselves. I just stopped protecting them. He swallowed hard. For the first time, I think he actually saw me. Really saw me. Not as his wife. Not as the woman he could control. But as the woman who had outplayed him at his own game. And then, finally, Ryan said the one thing I never thought I'd hear from him. I was wrong. But it was far too late for that. I stepped back, giving him one last look. Yeah, I said. You were. Then I closed the door in his face. And I never looked back. Ryan's visit should have been the end of it. I had one. His father was facing federal charges, his family was in financial ruin, and their entire reputation, the thing they had valued above all else, was shattered. But people like Ryan don't just disappear. They linger. And I should have known he wouldn't go down quietly. 2 weeks later, I got a message from Diane. Not a call. Not a voicemail. Just a simple text, we need to talk. Family dinner. Saturday. Be there. Like nothing had happened. Like I was still part of them. I almost laughed. After everything? They actually thought I would walk into their house like a scolded child and hear them out? But something in me paused. Because I knew Diane. This wasn't a peace offering. This was a trap. And I was going to walk straight into it. That Saturday, I drove to their house, or what was left of it. The grand estate they once boasted about now looked abandoned. The lawn was overgrown, the paint on the shutters was chipping, and the driveway, once filled with luxury cars, held just one old sedan. They had lost everything. And I wasn't sorry. I stepped inside, and the air was heavy. Ryan was already there, standing by the fireplace. His sister sat on the couch, her eyes red-rimmed. And at the head of the table, sitting with perfect posture, was Diane. She gestured toward the chair across from her. Sit. I didn't. Instead, I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. I assume this isn't a family reunion. Diane exhaled sharply, her fingers twitching around a half-empty glass of wine. You went too far. I smiled. Did I? You destroyed us, Ryan's sister snapped, her voice breaking. You sold Grandpa's house, you ruined our business, I exposed the truth, I cut in. That wasn't my doing. That was your father's crimes finally catching up to him. Diane slammed her glass down. You didn't have to involve the press. I laughed. A short, cold sound. What did you expect me to do? Stay silent? Let you drag me through the mud while you all played the victims? Ryan, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. We could have fixed this, he muttered, his voice low. I turned to him. Fixed what? Your father's fraud? Your mother's manipulation? Or were you just hoping I'd come crawling back, like always? His hands clenched into fists. You didn't have to burn it all down. For a moment, the room was dead silent. And then I said, maybe I did. Diane's jaw tightened. If you have any decency left, you'll return the money from the house sale. It was meant to stay in the family. I felt something icy settle in my chest. She was still trying to control me. Even now, when everything had fallen apart, she was still acting like I owed them something. I took a slow breath, then said, what family? Diane blinked. I gestured around. Look at you. You all turned on me the second I did something for myself. You never saw me as part of this family. You just wanted me under your thumb. She opened her mouth, but I wasn't done. And the best part? I leaned in, my voice soft but sharp. Your husband is going to prison, and you won't have a single dollar left to your name. Diane's face went white. Ryan's sister let out a strangled sound, covering her mouth like she was about to cry. And Ryan? For the first time, I saw it. Not anger. Not denial. Fear. Because he finally realized what I had known all along. There was no coming back from this. I turned toward the door. I had nothing left to say to them. But as I reached for the handle, Ryan spoke again. Laura. I hesitated. Not because I wanted to hear him out. But because there was something different in his voice. When I turned back, his expression was raw. Not angry. Not arrogant. Just lost. I loved you, he said quietly. And for a moment, I believed him. But love isn't control. Love isn't ownership. Love isn't making someone feel small so they'll never leave you. I nodded once. Maybe you did. Then I walked out the door. And for the first time in years, I felt free. A month later, Ryan's father was arrested. The trial was brutal. The evidence was stacked against him, and he took a plea deal to avoid a longer sentence. Diane tried to keep up appearances, but without her husband's money and influence, she became just another forgotten socialite. Ryan's sister moved out of state. And Ryan? I heard he tried to rebuild his life, but he was forever tainted by his family's name. And me? I thrived. My career in Austin took off. I found real friends, people who valued me for who I was, not for what I could sacrifice. And every once in a while, I thought about that house by the lake. The one they swore would never belong to me. The one I sold out from under them. And I smiled. Because in the end, they had tried to erase me. But I was the one who erased them.